Just finishing up with the crotch strap brackets, and boy have these things really slowed me down. I wanted to detail a little bit of that because I think some of it may have been lost somewhere as I was working through this. More on those brackets in a little bit, but I have a feeling my video is going to get flagged if we open up saying crotch so many times. Let's move the ball down the field a little bit and see what it took to get these parts ready for assembly. Trust me, however, you're not going to want to miss what I have to show about those brackets. And I think that is about it when it comes to fabrication from here. It's just our traditional prep work, dimpling, priming, light fluting, things like that. I'm going to leave the seat pans out of it for now. We are going to revisit these in a bit. The rest of it, we're going to take piece by piece, deburr, divot. Did I just call a dimple a divot? Deburr, divot, scrub. We'll get them in the prime booth. But first, as always, I want to clean up a little bit. This is a mess. Got most of the deburring done. There's still a lot of fine tuning of all these pieces, some adjustment of flanges, and all these little pieces take an incredible amount of preparation. I think more so than most parts of the plane. These small guys, for example, which attach the piece of this seat rib, this cutout here that allows for access for our control column, all need to be countersunk to allow for rivets, making sure, of course, to make a left and a right. It's things like this throughout that are going to take some additional time in getting this ready for riveting. These attached tabs that will wind up attaching this baggage rib don't need any additional prep work per se, but I did want to highlight one adjustment I made to the piece. I've hogged out a little area where we're going to encounter another rivet. Now, I noticed in other people's builds, They simply cut these down, and I could have easily done that. I just happened to have the tools ready to do it my way, so that's what I did. For our crotch strap brackets, we've got two that are pretty easy to get in and get a dimple on. But then the opposing two, we have that reverse angle, and it's very hard to get in here to get a dimple. Measuring these, they are 0.032 aluminum, which is just on the far edge of what is able to be countersunk. So I'm going to run these with the countersink, especially considering for a nut plate, we're not really hoping for a structural rivet. I mean, we want a good rivet, but ultimately it's just there to hold those threads in place, and most of our force comes from the screw pulling on that nut plate. So I'm going to countersink these. The seat ribs don't come with the blue plastic, which means there's a likely chance they were not formed by Vans. Because of some recent discussion, I am choosing to give those some additional scrutiny once they're dimpled, ensuring that everything looks fine. There's no tearing of the dimple. I believe that's my cue to talk about those parts in the video. Now, this is all getting really confusing because I'm editing footage that's from weeks ago, I think nearly a month ago, and just entering this phase where I'm beginning to get knowledge of the issue. And I think Vans has released the first statement. Now here we are a month forward in time, and I have a lot more information, but still waiting for information. But let's dig in. I think we've hashed out, and certainly online it's been hashed out enough, the problem with Vans. And now we all just eagerly wait while they piece this conundrum together. And I'm sure they have their work cut out for them. We're getting more information every week from users and from builders, and we're getting more information from Vans, I think about weekly now, as they chart a course through this. And so I don't really feel the need to rehash that too much. What am I doing, right? So how am I continuing to build? Because y'all know me, I don't like stopping anything. But how am I not painting myself into a corner? Well, I'm doing a number of things. I always like my systems. I've created just a quick system that allows me to identify parts in my build that are likely aired. And so I've been able to rule some out via video. I've been able to rule some out via creating dates and production times. And in the far left column, we get this kind of fun named go, no go decision on these parts. So utilizing my creating dates, I was able to automatically eliminate a number of pieces that will not be laser cut in my kit. Going back into old build videos and the raw footage, not what was posted online, allows me to get some great information. It takes a while, but I can pick through and I can further eliminate some additional parts. I've got parts on the shelf still, so we can further eliminate some of those. This helps me hone in on what is potentially aired. The part in the video that we just reviewed, and I said it doesn't have blue plastic, it might be bad. Well, it's not. And using that same system, I was able to identify that, in fact, I do have punch parts for my seat ribs. There was no blue plastic because they're heat treated. All of that clearly available on this little sheet that I have made. Very handy. And I suggest others start doing the same if they're in the same position I am. That's where I'm at. I will refuse to put anything onto this plane that I will later possibly have to take off. I think if there was one form of communication that would help right now, it's I think a lot of us builders that are in progress feel left in limbo. I know there's been some great communication and a strong follow-up saying, yes, we're going to replace these parts. The question remains those who have the parts already riveted into their aircraft. What sort of guidance can be provided? What sort of requirements are there going to be for those folks? You know, we're looking at some significant pieces that need to be replaced that are attached, you know, likely to other significant pieces, and how is all that going to go down? And I imagine that's still getting worked through and thought over, but boy, I know that's the question on a lot of our minds. I'm excited about the build still. I'm excited about this aircraft. I think it's going to be a fantastic plane, even if it takes a little longer to get it in the air. And I can't wait just to get through this and get back to the good old days of building where we didn't have these concerns hanging over our heads. And I know Vans is also excited to get back to that state as well. And if I could do anything to help them get there, I would. Right now, I think the only thing I can do is wait patiently. And we know how wonderful I am at waiting patiently. Let's do it. Let's get back to the build. I'm excited. That's it for my laser cut parts update this week. The end ribs of the seat rib section I haven't done much with, and we're not going to do much with them until the center section is really pretty much together. However, I'm going to prime them ahead of time, and any drilling and dimpling we will simply do to primed parts. I just want to have them all wrapped up in the same batch of primer. I have, however, gone ahead and trimmed just a hair off the leading edge of this rib here. It was incredibly tight to get it to fit. Now, this rib will get a bow to it, which is going to reduce the overall length, but the bow is slight and the fit was very tight, and I have plenty of room to shrink this back a little bit. So I took about a 1/16, maybe a little more off the front. Hopefully that reduces some of the binding that I have to do to get it seated before we bend it. At this point, all that's left to do is give these a scrub and get them in the prime booth. It's a tight fit, but at least I can close the door with this one. I'm gonna go ahead, I got everything cleaned up. I'm gonna get them sprayed, both sides except for that skin, of course, and then we will give them some time to cure, start putting this thing back together. Yikes. So Nearly finished with the white primer, and the air on the gun stuck, and I thought, shoot. But the paint wasn't stuck. It was just the air. So I quickly tried to wrap up what I was doing. And then, for lack of a better word, the gun sort of just popped, and paint started leaking profusely out of this and everywhere. I got a couple drips on the parts, which I've since tried to mitigate the appearance of. I might have to just sand it all down and start from scratch. To be honest, I don't really know what happened. I'd love to blame it on the cheap tool, but the fact is, most of the responsibility probably lands on me as I break this thing down and clean it out. The only thing worse than a cheap tool is a poorly maintained cheap tool, and this thing seems to have been through some abuse. So I want to clean it up and see if these parts are salvageable and I can live with it, or if I need to figure out how to strip it down and start again. Now for the exciting part, it's time to build stuff. First, I got a lot of nut plates to attach here, and to keep these screws going in and out easy in a confined area, we're going to run a tap through all the nut plates, and that should make it so these screws just sail in and out. Definitely critical where we have limited access on the sides of the cockpit. I'm going to do it throughout. I think I've got 24, 28 to do, so might as well get to it. It's important to remember on these guys, I countersunk 4 of the nut plates. They will not need dimpling. So with that and this straggler, everything's been dimpled. Someone may note that according to the plans, really we're only supposed to run a tap through, or at least it only indicates to run a tap through the ones that are nearest the wall. I've been having a lot of trouble installing screws in some of my nut plates, and with something like the seat floors, I decided we're gonna tap them all. If anything, I can put just a dot of removable thread lock on the screws as they go in. And one of the things I haven't done yet is dimple this. All right, 5 rivets, 2 bolts per rib, 8 ribs. It's not too bad. I'm thinking I'm being optimistic by getting the squeezer out here. But we'll see. Look at the rivet gun. That reminds me, crotch strap brackets. One sec. The brackets are not on the plans. They are an addendum, an added piece. I'm not sure if it's an option or not. I'd have to look, but it was shipped with my kit. Similar to the stall warning sensor, there are facets of the production that are completed by the factory, but not noted in the plans or instructions that accompany the crotch strap brackets themselves. For example, this hole here and its accompanying screw holes, pilot holes, are noted that we would have to create those. And so I wasn't super concerned about matching this plate up with where the brackets were going to land when I originally installed the brackets. I figured I'd install the brackets and then I'd add the hole to fit. That's not the case. Now, while I'm happy that I don't have to create that hole, it did create a momentary heart attack when I realized that if these don't match up, I'm in deep you-know-what. So I'm lucky that I measured carefully. I put these exactly where the plan said. If I had deviated back or forth just a little bit, this may be a different conversation. But luckily the slot for my buckle lands right in the middle of this hole. So where are we now? The only thing left to do is to go ahead and put nut plates in these 4 holes. Now, because these are pre-punched, we again have to make sure things line up perfectly, and that's what I'm in the process of doing now. The minor takeaway here is make sure that you're using your seat floors to verify position before you start drilling holes like I did. I feel like this is going to be easier to get in now. I don't want to mess with this too much because I feel like this primer is still pretty fresh, but I do feel like at the same time I can sink some blind rivets in here and just get this positioned without having to fuss with it too much later. The seat ribs are attached to the aft section of the main spar bulkhead, which is exciting. However, I'm at a very frustrating spot in the instructions. Go figure. And I knew this was coming for a while because I've been stewing over this portion of the instructions, wondering just what it is I'm supposed to do. I've been instructed to take it this far, and it's been pretty clear. And then we go through this process of flipping this upside down and riveting these ribs to the skin, and in fact even riveting these ribs to the skin. Nowhere in the instructions is anything about this. Arguably one of the most important pieces of the center fuselage, the center of the center fuselage, and nowhere does it mention that we are supposed to attach the ribs to this or the baggage ribs to this. We're instructed to move straight to the skin. Now I know that's not the case. This has to be attached, but I'd feel a lot better doing it if they told us to. Another source of frustration are these rivets right here. I'm nearly positive I need a rivet going only through the flange and the rib. I wanted to get them squeezed or shot and bucked before putting this bolt in place so that I had some room. However, for the life of me, I cannot verify that I'm not also supposed to include anything else in that rivet system. For now, I'm going to go ahead and, following the plans as close as I can, get this piece in the baggage ribs riveted on so that I can turn this upside down and start to attach the skin. Alright, well that's about it. Next week we're going to continue riveting the skin to this skeleton as we inch closer to attaching the whole thing to the aft fuselage to create a truly huge piece of the plane within my garage. I can't wait to see you there. In the meantime, thank you so much for all the comments, for liking my videos, for subscribing, and for watching. I will see you next time on Ryan Flies.